Hello and welcome to Enlightened Empaths, your community for the spiritually awakened, where we discuss, explore, and connect with fellow empaths, healers, intuitives, and seekers.
Welcome back to Enlightened Empaths. I'm really excited to share our dear friend Jen Edwards with us today to do an astrological update. So many of us have been feeling a little adrift with what's been going on in the world, and she's here to share some of the big energetic things that are happening over the next few months that will help you realize that you're not losing your mind. There really is a lot going on, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So thanks for coming back on with me again, Jen. It's really nice to see you.
Thanks for having me, Denise. It's a pleasure as always.
Yes. And so we were sharing before we started recording that a lot of times intuitively we'll get hits on something, and then you can always validate it for me with something going on astrologically. So right now I know a big thing going on is this whole Venus retrograde in Leo. So could you share a little bit about all those shenanigans?
Absolutely. You know, our planet Venus, which is our collective energy of love, security, self-worth, prosperity, all of those things. When she goes retrograde, we go internal. So as a collective baseline, when Venus is retrograde, we're looking at how we create our exterior world by the self-worth we have for ourselves, the value, the self-love, the unconditional self-love. And so whenever any planet retrogrades, it gives us an opportunity to step back and say, what am I creating from my core? And gives us the opportunity to really, thrive and grow the garden within us. So that way, when it goes direct again, we are sort of, planting these beautiful flower seeds from self-love. What's cool about Venus being retrograde in Leo is that collectively, regardless of where this is in your chart or what sign you are, Leo represents the inner child. And it rules the fifth house of the zodiac birth chart wheel, which is creativity, being on stage, and how we create from our core, aka the inner child. And when we have a retrograde here, we look at, are we really expressing our inner child, or are we trying to make ourselves fit, a square peg in a round hole? So we learn to embrace the beauty of our own authentic self. And she'll be retrograde it started on July 22nd, and then we'll go direct on September 3rd, and then we'll be out of shadow period on October 7th. What's interesting about this particular Venus retrograde, to note, Venus retrogrades every 18 months. So the last time we had a Venus retrograde in a different sign would have been the end of December 2021 until the beginning of February 2022. So she repeats retrogrades in different signs every 18 months. However, she repeats the sign every 8 years. So technically, the last time we had a Venus retrograde in the sign of Leo would have been 2015. So we start looking back at that time. But what's super interesting about this particular one, which I absolutely love and adore because it really is about loving your inner child and moving from your inner child, is that we haven't had a Venus retrograde fully, start to finish, in Leo since at least the 18th century. So, this is really a time to really get into your joy, understand what creates your joy without the stimulus of anything around you. What it is that you inherently want for yourself and how you want to create that in your own unique authenticity. And the authenticity part of this is very much what is being shown to us over the summer, because Pluto, which moved into Aquarius in March, has now gone retrograde and moved back into Capricorn. And obviously Pluto moves very slowly. It takes almost a century and a half to go through all of the signs of the zodiac, or 2.5 centuries, excuse me. So when Pluto moved back to 29 degrees, our north node, our transit north node, which is our purpose point, our collective purpose point, started moving into Aries. And Aries is the sign of creating action from me. And so how are we creating action? And is it from our most authentic place? And if it isn't, it's breaking apart old identities that got us here to this point in time, but no longer serve us.
I love that you use the word where this is the collective of what this is happening, because that's exactly what so many people are feeling right now, that I need to be true to myself. I need to step into my own. I need to take care of. Now, how does this impact the releasing that's happening? Because it does seem like this is a summer of letting go, releasing old things that have been holding us back. The whole trauma, grief, fear, all that stuff seems to be going out the window. And we're doing what it feels like is we're doing really deep work right now. So is this retrograde a part of this release?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, how we create the world around us is created by our subconscious core. Mm-hmm. And if we have wounding there, all of us do, it energetically creates a frequency that we're unaware of. So what I mean by that is that all of these retrogrades are calling us inward to say, I have built this life that aesthetically looks fantastic from the outside, but I'm not thriving. I'm not happy. I feel like I'm not growing. I feel like this isn't who I am. And we start to realize that the things that perhaps, depending on where we are on our walk, that we have created are from an old identity that needed to be safe. And that identity that needed us to be safe is not the identity of who we truly are.
Exactly. And that's huge, 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 huge. So this is kind of where we are for this 6-week window with Venus retrograde, is getting more in touch with that inner child, honoring our own authenticity, truly releasing and embracing the life we want to be in, not the one we feel we've been stuck in. Is that
absolutely? And,
okay?
And if you look at it from this perspective, we will be seeing old opportunities, exes. It's always known exes come back during Venus retrograde. And this is a time to really understand the version of yourself that was a part of that relationship, and understanding your worth and value by seeing, how you put yourself in service. And the way that I like to tell people that I'm working with is that with Venus retrograde, we learn how to fill our own cup and how we're worthy and value because we are. And we start there at the core. It's like if you go grocery shopping on an empty stomach, you're going to fill your cart full of crap because you're starving, right? But if you go to the grocery store with a snack or a meal in your belly, all of a sudden you start making better choices for yourself. Mm-hmm. And so this period of time is kind of showing you, okay, this is what you've chosen before in the past. And maybe it was because you were looking for, something to soothe you or to show you validation. But then all of a sudden you realize, I'm beautiful. I'm strong. I'm worthy. I want to be met where I am. And so when we step into that with Venus retrograde in all areas of our life, whether it's financial or whether it's romantic or, whether it's even how we communicate with the world around us, we start to attract that energy to be met in that place, which is pretty great. As far as, breaking the confines around authenticity, how we get to this point in this moment is never shameful, because that's the part of our own individual process to have our awakening, saying that, I deserve more. I am worth more than this identity has created. So when we had this big full moon recently in Aquarius, that was a 6-month process that was connected to the new moon at the beginning of the year in Aquarius, which was conjunct Pluto. And this full moon was kind of, because it's in Aquarius, which is the collective sign of uniqueness, authenticity, how we show up for the collective. Are we showing up as our true self? Or are we trying to fit into groups, right? Are we trying to put ourselves into something that is not authentically who we are so we can blend in? And so this full moon that we just had on August 1st, I believe, was the beginning of this month-long energy in August, where we're bookended by full moons, which means we're having a blue moon on August 30th in Pisces. They're both super moons. It means that they're both very close to the earth. They're incredibly powerful, and they're meant for change. So this first Aquarius full moon that we just had, amidst the Venus retrograde in Leo, was about cracking open our authenticity. It's almost like a liberation. You think of Mork and Mindy and the egg cracking open, right? And then this little space being comes out. Current news affairs aside, no pun intended, but we're cracking open. And then as we move through August, we're going to be able to have things in our path show up to support that authentic side of ourselves, even if we have shaky legs. And then when we get to the blue moon, which is the second super moon of August, this will be in the sign of Pisces at 7 degrees, and it will be conjunct Saturn. Pisces is the collective sign of source and the subconscious and the dream life. And that's how we allow source to come in. So when we get out of our way, we take off those masks, we can actually get the support from our higher self and healing from this full moon in Pisces, which is going to just be decadent, extravagant, but with Saturn also life defining. It's almost as if we get a little bit more comprehension of why we're here on those next baby steps rather than for the rest of our lives, because the trajectory of planning out the rest of your life doesn't leave much room for the universe to come in and do its job.
Exactly. And I think August, and I don't even know why I'm saying this, but it feels like a much gentler energy than what we've had the last several months. The last several months have been rugged. They really have been. And it's been trying, and it's been ripping the Band-Aid off repeatedly for a lot of people with old wounds, with situations, with circumstances that were unexpected in their lives. And now this month really feels like a chance to recharge our batteries, to regroup, to really get clear on who we are, where we're going, and not with making it so rigid and definitive that we don't let the universe step in and help us, but just it's a time of more ease than what we've been experiencing the last several months. So you mentioned Pluto squaring the nodes. You mentioned, I would love to pretend I know it, that I came up with that on my own, but I did not. So what about this Pluto squaring the nodes?
Well, so Pluto is the higher octave of Mars, and Pluto is this beautiful planet that is all about transformation and alchemical rebirth. And without Pluto, we kind of stay on one side, and this births us over to the other side, and we can look back and see the different versions of ourselves, right? But we can't really relate to those old versions anymore because we've had this molecular transformation. So when Pluto squares the nodes of fate, which is the north node and the south node, and everyone has them in their own personal chart. It's your life purpose point. But when it's moving in transit for the collective, everybody gets the same energy. And what that energy consists of is, where are you going and why and how? What are the reasonings and energy behind what you want? And so I call Pluto like a big ego course corrector. And so what it does is that when we're moving in our wounding to kind of create a cage around us so the universe can't get in, Pluto tests us to surrender to the unknown, because it's all about baby steps in the present. And, being open to not worrying about 5 hours ahead of time and allowing the universe to come in while we're here in the present, being okay and at peace in the present. So when Pluto squares the nodes just entered Aries and Libra. Aries is ruled by Mars. It's about action And when we're moving an ego, or when I say ego, you have to understand it's wounded ego. We are trying to play whack-a-mole to control everything in the future so we can feel safe. And the universe wants to come, it can't come in that way. And so when Pluto squares these nodes, it puts a lot of tension on the muscle memory of what you're used to doing to create safety, to break that open to another way of directing your energy to create for yourself. So what does this look like? This looks like having something set in stone around work, and all of a sudden it blows apart. How do you feel about that in this moment? Are you open to other opportunity, right? And so it really wants to rectify how you are moving. And the reason why it's such a beautiful energy to work with is because a lot of times we won't take those steps for ourselves until there are no other options. And all of a sudden we realize, why didn't we do this for ourselves sooner? Why didn't we, why didn't I rip off the Band-Aid sooner? It's so much beautiful on the, it's much more wonderful on this other side that I was so scared to walk through. So Pluto puts us in those positions where we are, allowing divine intervention coming in, because it takes our hands out of the Play-Doh kit.
So it's a time of surrender, let go of the reins, let it unfold. And what triggered what you were saying was that on a physiological level, when we're in a place of fear or resentment or anger or all that negativity, it impacts your amygdala, which is in the prefrontal cortex of your brain. And that's where our reasoning takes place. So when we get into this negativity and this fear of, what could, should, the anxiety stuff, it shuts off our prefrontal cortex and doesn't allow us to go into a safe place to make decisions and reason with some semblance of balance. So I think you're saying astrologically, spirit, the world, universe is saying, here's this little window, calm the F down and just let things settle. Is that
absolutely
kind of the abridged version?
The vocabulary that you're using is the same vocabulary that I was using with the group, which is the amygdala is your muscle memory. And so when we get traumatized, and it looks different for everyone, whether it's through fear or abandonment when we're really young, the brain's function is to keep you alive, and so it attributes pain to I'm going to die, even though that's not what's happening. And so we have that muscle memory of when we're older, the amygdala gets triggered and all of a sudden we're in this like fight or flight place. And so it's super important, especially during this time right now, as we move into the fall, to really feel your feelings all the way through. And before you make any moves, unless of course you're in like a hostage situation, you know what I mean? But, really feel your feelings all the way through, see where they are in your body. And if they keep going into your head to ruminate, ask yourself this simple question, and you'll be surprised what happens with your mind. But ask yourself, when you're overthinking and you catch yourself overthinking and not feeling, ask yourself, I wonder what I'll think of next. And watch what happens, because the brain stops.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go back into feeling to get it out. The brain will always intellectualize our feelings to avoid feeling it, because again, it thinks it's dying.
But from everything that you're saying, Jen, these energies that are present right now are encouraging us and supporting us to connect with our truest feelings and how we process them, not what we've been told, not what we've learned, not what we've been conditioned, or not what the environment is hitting us with. But this is a beautiful opportunity to go within and say, this is how I truly feel about this, and it's okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's beautiful. So going into the fall, we have eclipse season. Am I jumping the gun? No, we have to
No,
go to
not at
Mercury
all.
retrograde first.
No, as a matter of fact, well, I'll blend that in there. But as a
Okay.
matter of fact, everything that's happening right now is happening for you. So astrology doesn't happen to you. The energy happens for you, right? Everything is energy. So it's always happening all the time. And as we are moving through this introspective, self-healing, self-reclaiming, self-surrendering energy, it's preparing us for these beautiful eclipses that are going to occur in the fall. And we have eclipses every year. However, the reason why these ones are so great is because not only are we in a Venus retrograde, but these eclipses are Venusian eclipses. So we have our first solar eclipse in the sign of Libra, which is ruled by Venus. And this is the first eclipse in Libra since 2016, I believe. But when we look at eclipses, we want to go back 19 years. So these eclipses of this year are reflecting similar energies from spring and fall 2004. So keep that in mind. But the first eclipse of eclipse season will be October 16th at 21 degrees Libra. It will be a solar eclipse. It's about new beginnings. And the sign Libra is about we. How do I self-sacrifice myself to maintain a relationship? But when we look at that, the idea is, how can I create a relationship with myself? And that ends up being the service to the world around you inadvertently. The second eclipse that happens ends Taurus Scorpio cycle of fixed signs, and it will be on October 28th at 5 degrees Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. So this will be an ending of fixed beliefs on how we feel we need to acquire love, money, safety, security, prosperity, because our most important asset is time. We finally let go of something big that we've been digesting over the last 2 years since November 2021, when this eclipse cycle started. Now, before we move into this epic doorway of movement from authenticity and self-love, right? We start the fall season with actually, it's not necessarily starting. It's prior to the equinox, actually. So the technical here in New England, fall starts at the end of August. Labor Day, you know what I mean? But for the rest of the world, it's a little different. So Mercury will begin retrograding in Virgo on August 23rd, and it will end its retrograde on September 16th. And during that period of time, we are reconnecting collectively with our body. How are we, because Virgo naturally rules the 6th house of the zodiac wheel, regardless of what you have there or what sign you are. And the energy that it brings in is, where are we sacrificing ourselves, our bodies, to meet other people's needs? Where are we seeking validation in service to others, but not paying attention to ourselves? As someone who has a lot of Virgo energy in her chart, I have always been someone who will run to someone else's house to put out that fire. But I got 9 fires going on at my house that I'm trying, and I realize it's because I'm trying to avoid the inner work. I'd rather take care of other people than deal with my own stuff. And so, this whole perspective of looking at the schedules where I'm running myself ragged, creating more of a routine where I'm in respect of my temple, meaning through sleep hygiene, meaning through taking care of myself, drinking water, being hydrated and moisturized has been a game changer, even those small things. But Mercury for the whole collective is really about coming back into the body, getting rid of stress that you think you need to put yourself in order to be of worth and value to the world around you. And understanding that that's not necessarily healthy for anybody.
Okay. So it really feels like these next few months, to put it in a little nutshell, are getting clear with who we are and a self-acceptance and self-love, riding this out, let go of the reins a little bit, and then it's all going to come to fruition. All this work we're putting in now will come to fruition in October, during this eclipse season, and then we'll be able to move forward from there with this renewed sense of self and authenticity, if we allow this to integrate into our lives.
Absolutely. And with a lot of people that I'm working with, which I mean, I'm the same way, you know, the first response I'll get is, oh, I gotta wait until October. And so what I'll say to them is that, you know, the magic is in every single second that you're self-aware. What unfolds in front of you in October is a product of, you know, being in the present, being self-aware now, because in our minds, what we think is going to happen in October, we're energetically getting ready for something huge. And that starts in baby steps in the present.
We're laying the foundation right now. We're building the groundwork. And that's always in all of this stuff. It's always, always, always choice and free will. You can just ride it out and say, well, nothing happened. You get to October, you say, well, my life is just the same. Did you do any of the work when you had this opportunity? Or did you just say, oh, well, it's going to shift anyway in October, so I'm just going to wait and see what happens? Because I do think we're being gifted right now with this incredible opportunity to purge, to release, to redefine the way we want to do this in our own unique way.
Absolutely. And funny you should say that, because this week, you know, I'm a pretty introspective person. But this week I was making coleslaw. And I ended up channeling two, you know, there were messages for me, but I shared them with the collective, and I'll share them with you and your collective. But the first one was, which this one I really thought about afterwards, and I was just like, wow. This one was, the first one that came in was, I'm not waiting for you. I'm ready for you. So for those people who are waiting for that big thing to happen in October, now's the time to get ready for it. Even if you don't know what's going to happen, we get ready for it by filling our own cup, by finding out what it is that brings out our inner child and lets our inner child play, what grows our inner child rather than shrinks our inner child. And those are the defining moments to the opportunity that will come for where you are standing, you know, in October. And the second one, which I really loved, because I think it was for me, you know, it was very exquisite timing on this one, but those who avoid lessons are bound to repeat them. And so, you know, what I mean by that is that, you know, when we get into fear-based sort of amygdala trauma stuff, instead of feeling it through, but creating action instead, the lesson's bigger to bring us back to finally feeling it. You know, if everything's energy, the feelings that we have create energy as well. So it's important. Emotions are supposed to go in and out.
Right.
And teach us a lesson when they leave. And so, you know, if we can step into how we feel without shame and just really allow that to happen, that release brings much, much, much wisdom.
Oh, that's very nice. And those are both really important messages. They're really important. And it's beautiful how closely they align with everything that we've been talking about, because that is the opportunity in all of this, is you're okay just the way you are. And I think so many people have hid who they really are out of fear or conditioning, or not being sure of how they'll be accepted or seen publicly. But this is really a chance to say, this is who I am, and you get me or you don't.
Absolutely.
So, and more people are finding community for that. They're finding like-minded people. They're, you know, we talk about this a lot of, you have something that's so unique, that's so just that little tweak that makes you just a little bit different than the other 8 billion people on the planet. Find that little tweak and just be like, holy shit, nobody else has this the way I do. I think that's kind of the what all of this feels like to me, is a level of truly saying, I'm okay. I'm really okay. So this is exciting. This is very exciting. And it's going to go by quickly, because time is on this weird trajectory of how is it already August, or how is it? I mean, it's like boom, boom, boom. Things are going very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So speaking of which, you have some exciting things coming up.
Yes. So we're getting ready for the Moon Lodge Collective inaugural retreat, which is going to be happening Labor Day weekend in Devlin, New York, which is in upstate New York. It's about 45 minutes east of the Buffalo airport. And it's going to be a rebirthing weekend. So we're going to have everyone come on Friday, and then we stay all the way until Monday at noontime. And astrologically, the way this is landing, it couldn't have been planned out by the stars, more perfectly. But, we're going to be practicing Kundalini rebirthing. We're going to be by Michelle Adshead Brown, and also Allison Tatro, who is a nurse practitioner of psychology. She will also be there talking about somatic release. And of course, we will be walking you through not only practice, but as well as energetic release to move from your core as you start moving into this eclipse season. So that's why we're calling it a rebirth. And, all the meals and all the accommodations are all included. As well as Allegra Kakasi Shorttill will be going over lots of her herbal magic as well to supplement this sort of journey. Anyone who's not in the Moon Lodge is welcome to join us for that weekend, and you're welcome to find the details on the website or email me or find me on Instagram at thank_goddess. I am verified now on Instagram because of all the weird things that happen on Instagram. So look for the blue check. That's me. And then also, I'm super excited about this. I had the opportunity to start a year-long program at the equinox, the spring equinox last year, called the Chrysalis. And it's a 4-module program where we move through the entire year. The first module is the inner child working with Chiron. The second module is the divine feminine working with Venus. The third module is mother and child reunion. And then the final module is the rebirth. And so I'm getting ready to open the doors up to next year's program, because I do have to limit the amount of participants, because you are a part of this program is seeing me each module 6 times. And so we're working really intensely with each other. And so far with this group that I have now, I have gone through my own personal transformation, as well as really watched them go through their transformation. And if you're looking for something where you're working with someone one-on-one, and you really want to, scratch below the surface of, maybe you can't get out of an anxiety loop, or maybe you aren't sure of the future, but really want to stay in the present. This program is for people who really want to get through the outer layers and get really deep within the soul. So that way, when they're done, they can do this walk from their baseline, which is core love and connection to source.
Wow. And that's completely online. So there's no limitation of where you're located.
Yeah, it's totally online. And for that program, it's half the cost of seeing me. Well, I mean, just seeing, just having those 6, well, it's 6 per module. So it's 20, so it's 24 visits. I am so passionate about this work that, I want to make it so that way everyone can access it. But with this particular program, I do offer payment plans to make it more accessible for most people. But I'm opening the doors at the equinox, the fall equinox, and then the program for next year will start at the vernal equinox.
Beautiful. So that gives some people some time to really explore this a little bit and see if it may be a good fit for them.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. If anyone is in the upstate New York area or has the proximity to be able to get there, the ability to get there, it sounds like your retreat coming up the end of this month, it will be an amazing opportunity.
Oh,
as well.
we were talking about it the other day because I'm getting so excited, and so is everyone that's on the roster, and we're just getting chills because the astrological timing of this event is really in alignment with kind of like, a jump start into eclipse season. So it's kind of allowing yourself to go deeper, let the stuff go that no longer serves through this practice, and then just go into this with a whole new vibrational set. I would say mindset, but let's get rid of the mind. Let's walk into it with a vibrational set. So, we're excited. I am so excited. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can tell your passion for this work. It's beautiful. It absolutely is. And I think that that's what we're all hoping to find in this time of transformation, is that spark that we do feel that passionate about, so that we can share that with each other and find our like-minded people. So thank you so very much for coming on and doing this with me today, because this is hopeful and it's exciting. And again, if you're interested in anything that Jen has spoken about, or you'd like more information on these amazing offerings that she's bringing up, thankgoddess.org, and also on media, thank_goddess with that verified blue check. Okay. All right. Take care of yourselves, folks. And I hope you have a good season coming up. Take care.